right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody who's joining us from across the world today. We are thrilled to have Darko Mandich from the CEO of MeliBio with us. And on this version of Pandemic Punditry, putting the planet on a pandemic diet, we are going to learn a lot about bees, more than probably any one of you would care to know, but it is a fascinating subject. Darko's company, MeliBio, is actually making honey without bees. So this is a fabulous, fascinating experience. We've done a fair amount of research on the subject prior to talking to Darko, and I must say I've learned so much in the research, and I'm looking forward to talking to you, Darko. Welcome to Pandemic Punditry.
Hi everyone. Thank you for inviting me. I'm really excited about talking about bees and honey today, and help your audience to understand the issue, what's happening with the bees, and the importance of these wonderful creatures for the entire planet.
That they are. Kartika?
Yeah, so Darko, to tell us and our audience, why should people care about bees? What is the problem right now?
As I mentioned, bees are wonderful creatures. They help us pollinate so many crops. They really are important to humankind. And what's happening with the bees is they're really challenged in terms of their basic survival. If you would ask 10 people if they know if anything wrong is happening with the bees, probably 9 people would say, yes, something wrong is happening. We heard it from this article, from this movie, from this study. But the thing is, the problem with the bees is much bigger than we realize. We talk about the colony collapse disorder that's happening to mostly honeybees, and that is actually making all these hitting the news with losing some colonies from beekeepers, and that's really getting the eye of the audience. It's an important thing. But what people don't realize, which is I think even more important, that if we talk about the bees are not just honeybees. Honeybees are domesticated, and they're just one out of 20,000 bee species out there. So other 20,000 bee species are not honeybees, and they're even more important than honeybees because they're efficient pollinators. They're specific pollinators. They're not just general pollinators. They help us to maintain rich flora and fauna. And what's happening with them is they are jeopardized with the honey production that is really expanding to meet the demand for honey.
Wow. I mean, 20,000, huh? That's a big number.
20,000 bee species.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So, why are these bees being threatened? Is it because of agriculture? Is it because of orchards? What is the reason behind all of this stuff? And I remember reading in your State of the Bees report that every time we have 10% of agricultural land, that we sort of set the bees back some 34 million years of evolution or something like that. Is that correct?
That is one of the reasons why the problem with bees is really we believe at large scale, and reports show that there are several factors that are helping the bees not survive, and one of them is definitely using more agricultural land. The other thing is that we've noticed is a huge pressure happening on wild and native bee species and bumblebees from honeybees. So honeybees are very competitive bee species. And if you have a meadow that didn't have beehives before, and if you bring 10 beehives to a meadow, that's around 500,000 of new honeybees. So imagine 500,000 new honeybees on a small meadow. When they go out of their hives and when they start foraging, they just push back on wild and native bee species. So in a perfect scenario where world would really consume honey, which we believe is a superior product, more often, the only way how we make honey through commercial beekeeping would actually influence that we end up with one bee species, and those are honeybees. So we believe that if we don't come up with all kinds of solutions, And we are basically focused on the solution on removing the pressure on wild and native bees through finding alternative ways to produce honey and supplies. We believe that if we don't do that, we would actually create a distortion. We would actually practically cancel bee biodiversity. And that's really important. That's really important because people don't know that. People believe, hey, honey is great. If I eat more honey, there will be more bees. It's not that simple. Actually, if we would, as I mentioned, eat honey and not find a way to produce it in a different way than from commercial beekeeping, we would create a huge problem.
So, it's interesting, right? So I see some parallels between, I mean, we've talked on Pandemic Punditry's putting the planet on a pandemic diet several times about, commercial agriculture, the profusion of monocultures, industrial farming, right? And in common parlance, what people know about is, the dairy industry, the meat industry, the, whatever, the poultry industry, the egg industry. Very few people think of bees as an industrially farmed product. Most of them have this thing of, there's a honey, there's a hive and you get the honey, and yeah, there are some people, little beekeepers running around with a few boxes, right? So there's this sort of, I guess, myth maybe, or a milieu around the fact that bees are somehow a sustainably sourced product. And I think what was sort of, revealing and truly sort of earth-shattering was to really understand at least in North America, how industrialized bee production is. Maybe, Darko, you can sort of shed some light into sort of, breaking that whole idea that it's this idyllic, artisanal farmed product. What's real bee industry like, beekeeping industry like?
Bee industry is very oriented towards efficiency, and I believe that efficiency is probably unsustainable when you have two things that are involved. That's work of the animal and then physical labor of human. And meeting efficiency under those two circumstances, I think it's really impossible. Less than 3% of beekeepers in North America are small beekeepers.
Less than 3%.
Less than 3%. And
wow.
the issue there is you have all these big trucks that are packed with millions of bees, and those are moved from one coast to another coast. The bees are stressed. The pathogen spillover is happening from honeybees to wild and native bees. And understanding all of that, unfortunately, you get a new perspective on how to look into this industry. On the other hand, we as a company and the founding team, including myself, are always oriented towards finding solutions. We are looking at the problem and we are looking at the difficulties of the problem, not to point fingers, but rather to sit down and facilitate a discussion and facilitate solutions that would be able to help us to change the industry. I really love bees and I love honey, but I understand that the part of the evolutionary process is that if we use an animal to get animal product, and if we like it, we don't need to stop having that product anymore, because we know that honey is amazing. We know that the taste is wonderful. When you put a spoonful of honey, it's a delicious taste. It's a delightful moment that you experience at that time. And we think that we should have those moments. But understanding that each and every action that we make is influencing our planet and our survival on this planet makes us really think, how can we win through all these ideas and habits, how to win to have the product, and also how to win to save the planet. So we believe that 10 billion people in 2050 should eat honey as we eat it today, just us to produce that honey in a sustainable way that will help us to maintain our beautiful planet. Because until today, we don't have any other planet that we can easily move there and start a new life. And understanding that if we keep our mindset in old times, defending actions from the old times, we are just delaying the actions that we would need to do, and that's saving this planet.
So I think, we clearly have heard this story, when the bees are no longer there, 4 years, 5 years later, we'll no longer be on the planet either, because they are so crucial for pollination. I think people sort of know that, but I don't know whether they really know the impact of it. 4 years. Do you agree with that statement? I've read it a couple of times in various places, but I think you have a little bit of a nuance on that, don't you?
Yeah, it's an interesting statement. People say that Einstein said that, even though we weren't able to find hard evidence knowing that Einstein said that. I wouldn't say that maybe it's 4 years, because I was really curious about that exact number. Mm-hmm. I think it was just, I think that number was taken to show the seriousness of the situation. But I would definitely argue that if bees would disappear, if we would reduce the biodiversity of bee species, that we would definitely be left out of many favorite food that we have, and that we would definitely not be able to enjoy in the scenery, nature that we can still enjoy today. Bees are such an intelligent species. There was a study recently saying that bees are actually able to recognize different puzzles. Even though their brain is really tiny, bees are able to be trained. I also read some studies about some military in the Western world able to train bees to find, to detect mines, landmines. So understanding how these tiny creatures are really, really, really amazing and important makes us really to think about them in another perspective. The biggest challenge of our niche of the industry of the food production is that if you're advocating for eating plant-based or cell-based meat, or advocating for consuming dairy or other milk that's not coming from the animals, it's much easier to show people this emotional connection. You just play a video of a cow playing soccer or football, and you can see that people can easily attach to that. But on the other hand, people are not that attached to bees because they cannot see them in a way that could be appealing to them. A lot of people are afraid of bees because they will sting them. A lot of people are in general afraid of insects. But I need to reassure you that there's an amazing beauty in those creatures. Imagine how scared they are when you approach them. Imagine how scared they are when they want to sting you, understanding that sting is taking their life. It's unbelievable, and I'm really obsessed with bees, and I'm really studying about the principles. They work together, they collaborate, they communicate, they have this dance when they want to show to each other how can they find food. That's really amazing. So we as a company believe that rather than just putting out there a new technology, a food innovation, and an amazing product, we believe that we are a mission-driven company that will present bees how they are, that will teach the people why should all of us love the bees and care about them, and how can we eat this amazing product that they made for us, but now capable as an advanced civilization to produce it with science so that we can keep these creatures alive.
Wow. Karthika?
Yeah, I was really interested in your State of Bees report, Darko, where you'd said bees, honeybees can carry and transmit up to 20 viruses, is that correct? 6 parasites and 4, if I'm not mistaken, bacterial and fungal pathogens?
Exactly.
So what does that mean? As humans, for us, what does that mean? How does that affect us?
It's again, everything is in that relationship between managed honeybees and wild and native bee species. So with the large number of honeybees that can really bring pathogens to wild and native bees, which are in smaller number, that means that actually with every jar of honey that we eat that's made through commercial beekeeping by honeybees, we somehow help a couple of native bees to extinct because we just support the way how this product is produced, and that way of production is unsustainable. So eventually, that would definitely lead us to not having the bees and not having the bee biodiversity. So we are really looking into that. Especially, there are a lot of new reports coming up here in California where especially bumblebees are very jeopardized with this pathogen spillover. I think it's, sometimes civilization needs to get fit within, it needs to, sometimes this fit between the advancement of civilization, the consciousness, and some problems needs to be aligned so that people can understand. So as I mentioned, I really don't expect people to know everything. We really don't expect that people have see this in a way that we see it, because this is the thing that we are really obsessed. We are really getting deep into reports, and also I have a strong connection with bees because I spent the last 8 years in honey industry. That is the industry that I know, and spending almost a decade in industry, you get to know it, you get to form an opinion about it, and then you get to be surprised with the latest reports, and then you start thinking about your industry in a different way. So I also had a personal evolution of my thought in terms of honey and bees, and therefore I really don't expect that people would know this, and that is why there is MeliBio, and that is why my co-founder Aaron Schaller and I decided to really put a spotlight on this topic, and inspired by all these amazing companies that are taking care of other animals. We were really inspired by them. When we saw what one Impossible Food did, what one Beyond Meat, Just, or other leaders of their industries, we were really inspired because we said, hey, there's a movement happening. There's a movement that is that has one single thing in common, and that is opening the consciousness of the customer, understanding that there are other perspectives to what we were told that is the case, and also empowering people that with every purchase you make a vote. Every time you buy either an egg or a plant-based egg, you are making a vote, and your vote goes either to the conscious future that is kind, sustainable, and possible for everyone, or your mind is still not open and you are still not aware and conscious. And that's okay, because people that don't understand the industry are yet to get to know the industry. Because I believe this movement that we created in terms of producing our favorite animal products without animals, this is probably, this will, I believe in the human history, probably a couple of 100 years from now, this moment in time that we are having this podcast will be seen as a revolutionary part of the humankind history, when we took science in order to help us to survive, while we also thought about our future generations of humans and also animals and nature that we live alongside.
Oh, so well put, Darko. So well put, I must say. I mean, clearly the passion is there, right? I mean, and it's interesting that you spent 8 years in the bee, the honey industry, and sort of went through an evolutionary process yourself to sort of change your perspective on them, which is not many people go through that journey. I mean, people go through an industry and sort of exit and retire there. But I think that the light bulb's going, and then that awakening that has happened in you is certainly inspiring, and motivating, for sure. I was kind of keen to understand from you um, the the actual parasites and the pathogens that the bees are honeybees, Apis melliferous, I guess, right? Mellifera,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, mellifera are spreading. Those are bee pathogens, right? This is not bees running around giving people COVID.
No, 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 no.
Okay, all right.
We haven't.
Just so that
We,
I know that to be true, but I just want to make sure nobody in the audience gets concerned
it's a
that.
it's a great question and concern. I mean, like we've seen what an intersection between animals and humans brought us, and this is an amazing time when actually I think this year was and is still very difficult, and I think finally we came to a realization and conclusion that one act of one single person can really it's so difficult, you know, it's so difficult when one person or a couple of people can affect creating of this what was created. And this is, you know, we've always, you know, when we were kids, we were taught in school that there's this like polarized world where a couple of people have their fingers on the buttons of the mass destruction. And I would say that the children of today would be taught that our mouths and what we put in them are kind of even more deadlier weapons of mass destruction that that can really make a difference. And I really urge to everyone to be open to take into account that some things, it's natural that some things are not communicated to us in a proper way in terms of the society where we grew up, the education we had, in terms of the views that we inherited from our parents, family, friends, the street where we grew up, but understanding that each and every one of us has a responsibility towards the people you love around yourself, towards you and your life, that we stay educated, that we learn, that we open our minds. For me, sometimes it's really difficult to understand, you know, we appreciate, for example, that taste is the king. Right. And we really appreciate that because I believe in that as well. But on the other hand, I also believe that survival is actually the king.
Yeah.
What are we going to taste 100 years from now if we don't survive?
Right.
So to all people concerning that their favorite animal products are not tasting in the alternatively produced way, either plant-based or through other ways, I want to send a message that companies know that everyone is following that familiar taste, and we are working on it. On the other hand, your support and understanding that we have survival that is more important than taste, to understand and respect that we will get to the taste with more and more people giving chances to new companies and new brands, changing the world, voting with your dollars, euros, rupee or lira, whatever, you are helping those companies to innovate, to grow, and to satisfy your taste and save the planet.
Oh, well put. Well put. Darko, so it's eloquently put, passionately put, and I so agree. I mean, I was just thinking, reflecting as you were talking, you know, if we eat ourselves into extinction, I mean, how are you going to explain that to somebody? Like saying, hey, there was a species called humans and they just ate everything because they couldn't, they were driven by their taste buds so much that they just ate the planet out essentially and killed themselves in the process. Right? I mean, that seems very stupid for people who've, you know, put, you know, men into space and are talking about being an interplanetary species and going to Mars. Well, great, but if you eat yourself out into extinction, none of that will matter because all that brain power means zero, right? So I think what you're doing here with science, right? So let's sort of decouple this a bit. So I mean, I think, you know, I highly recommend people read the state of bees report, right? I think that it's beautifully illustrated. It's simply written. There's no scientific jargon in there. I mean, it's an eye opener. I will make it available for anybody interested on our website, as well as on this recording. So we'll definitely make that available. But I mean, I learned a ton, and I consider myself quite educated in terms of these alternative, forms of diet and food. So I learned a lot. So I can highly recommend that everybody read that. I think it's an illuminating document in its own right. It's not very long, and it's colorfully presented. It's very easy. You can even share it with your kids. I think it's a wonderful piece of information, right? So let's just switch gears a little bit. I know that you have an answer, and the answer is actually, making the honey without the bee. So I guess in this whole process is that I guess the bee takes nectar from flowers and other things, and then through a process transforms it into honey. So you're taking the bee out of the equation, so the bee can go back to being a bee, right? Bee pollinators, right? For example, I think you said the super pollinators are the sweet bees, the mason bees, the minor bees, and the bumblebees. So I learned about 3 additional bees, addition to the bumblebee that I'd never known about. So these are better pollinators, much better pollinators than honeybees, right? So if you were to really talk about pollination, then we should be promoting those bees, not the honeybee. So what you're trying to do with MeliBio is exactly what? When you say you're taking the bee out of the equation, this is not cell-based thing. You're not trying to make the bee, the honey inside the bee, some of our people are doing for breast milk, for example. This is something completely different, right? So as much as you can reveal, and I understand you're in the middle of R&D, so there are stuff that you can't commercially discuss in the open. As much as you can, give our audience a sense of what is it that you're using. And I know it's a revolutionary, so please, whatever you can share would be appreciated.
Thank you for that question, Lavindra. I would just take a small step back just to also mention, people ask us, but bees, they love to produce honey. What would they do if we wouldn't take that excess honey from them and like consume it? Actually, that's not the case. The honey production is taking all the honey from bees and giving them sugar and water and maybe a little bit honey over the winter so that they can survive. So there wouldn't be excess honey if bees would just produce what they need for themselves. And that's the case. That's the thing that we really need to question. It's not that cows would sit down and be limited somewhere and give milk every day, or bees would give honey, or it's not that case. And we need to rethink that relationship with animals. In terms of our science, our goal and what really wakes us up in the morning and stays and helps us stay awake in late evening, we are not settled until we produce honey that is indistinguishable from bee-made honey in terms of delicious taste, in terms of amazing unique texture, and in terms of fantastic functional benefits. So we are making real honey just without the bees, with the help of science, with the help of our technology that we are developing that is based on the latest advancements of synthetic biology. And this reminds me of the video that I saw yesterday about Jeff Bezos talking about, you mentioned the space travel and going to other planets. And he said one really powerful thing, and that is the future generations will build our existence beyond this planet. But it is up to us as the current generation to build that infrastructure. Because of the infrastructure that we have now, we have this live podcast, which was much easier to organize than 5 years ago, when we would need to purchase some equipment, then we would need to purchase some expensive software. And that is what infrastructure is doing. And we see synthetic biology and the advancements there as this amazing infrastructure that is yet to empower people. I guarantee this. I know that probably Ryan Betancourt is a better person to talk about this, but I think when he mentions, and I totally agree, that biology and the advancements that we have now is probably compared to where some internet companies and online companies were in 95, 96, 97. We are yet to see the amazing results of the advancement of the humankind and civilization that will help us to use science to do good to people, to animals, to be efficient, to be affordable, to be accessible to everyone. I don't like when people say honey is premium. I don't like that, because in a way that shows respect to the high quality of the product. But premium is kind of limiting in terms of, hey, only a certain number of people can afford it. MeliBio wants to bring this premium product to everyone, to 10 billion people that will exist in this planet in 2050, and that would require to have their diet full of functional products. And where would you be able to find a better functional sweetener than honey? But honey produced by the bees wouldn't be accessible, maybe not even to a billion people. Look at Manuka, look at these honeys that are really amazing. They cost $100 per pound. We believe.
I have an interesting fact for you on Manuka. I just found. So Manuka is, hundreds of dollars, and it's crazy, right? But I found this statistic just today that says that officially New Zealand, which is where Manuka honey is mostly produced, officially produces 1,700 tons of Manuka honey a year. Officially, again, official number, 10,000 tons of Manuka honey are sold everywhere in the world, including 1,800 tons in the UK alone. So obviously, this is not Manuka that people are buying, right? For hundreds of dollars.
No, people are buying blends.
Yeah, it's counterfeit and it's adulterated, right? So, yeah.
People are buying blends of wildflower honey and Manuka. Right. And this is really unfortunate, because we are living in a big lie, and that's realizing how unaware we are. We have all these people, when we publish something on LinkedIn, they approach us with their comment, are you crazy, making honey without bees? Honey without bees is not honey, bringing all these things up. And I just tell them, hey, the honey that you're buying, there's a big chance that you're not actually either buying honey or buying the type of honey that you're buying. So this is the true reflection of ignorance of knowledge that unfortunately is widespread. Yeah. And again, not pointing fingers, because pointing fingers is just living living in the moment that you don't appreciate that can change. Being part of the solution is living in the present, realizing and hearing all these feedback and comments and providing solutions. And we know that we as a company, my co-founder Aaron and I, we are sharing this story equally with the same passion on every investor call that we are having, on every media call with people, and living this mission of ours is really a gift that we were given, and we're happy because of that, because we know that the big things that are happening started small and started with a couple of people, and seeing the community that we are having here in Bay Area, getting the support from Cell Valley Labs, Ryan Betancourt, Big Idea Ventures, Andrew Dive, these amazing progressive people. It's we really feel that not even that sky is the limit, that there's no limit, because there could not be a limit in goodness, in creating something positive, and in finding solution that doesn't damage anyone, including, and I'm happy to say, including about the current beekeepers, because we believe that no one needs to feel like that some solution is putting them out of business. We can help bees in many ways. Instead of putting beehives, we can put bee hotels and motels for bee species in our backyard. We can plant trees. We can look what Oatly is doing with converting all these dairy farms into plant-based farms. We always have solutions. we always, if we want to, we can always find a way so that the evolution and the progress is humane.
Yeah.
But if we reject the evolution, the progress, we are just we are just standing still, and the Earth is spinning, the other planets are spinning, and we are standing still. It's not possible.
So just a point of clarification, if I may, Karthik, I know you have a bunch of questions as well. So synthetic biology is what? I mean, I know you're not a scientist, your co-founder is. Tell us, I mean, why do you think it's going to be so revolutionary? What is synthetic biology? Is this, sort of genetic modification? I mean, what, in a simple way, not too long, but just a simple explanation of what is synthetic biology.
I'm very fortunate to be a CEO of a scientific company and not being a scientist myself. And I think that fortune comes from my deep belief in sharing education and sharing knowledge. So I always tend to see myself as the bridge between people that are not scientists and scientists. Also, I'm fortunate that my co-founder is a very unique scientist who is able to communicate parallelly in terms of scientific language and also talking simple language to people that are not scientists, such as myself. So how I see synthetic biology and how I would like to translate it to people all around the world. Synthetic biology is, I think, in one, a beautiful hardware and software that is empowering us to build things that are efficient, that are kinder, that are healthier, that are more scalable. It is literally, if you see the last 20 years and what technology helped us from the transportation to communication and business, synthetic biology is going to provide a similar or even better infrastructure for our nutrition, for our health, for our favorite food, beverage products, favorite pharmaceuticals, things that will help us live healthy longer, and that would help us to explore how we as a species can step up on the next level of the evolution.
So this is like essentially using a biological component, whether it's a fungi or yeast or bacteria or whatever, in the middle. You sort of program it, or you put an input, for example, let's say sunlight, and from the other side comes out protein, like a protein product or medicine or something, right? I mean, it's essentially biology working as technology. Am I oversimplifying that?
You are not oversimplifying, in my opinion, because I think approaching people with the language they would understand would actually help them to look into this industry in a different way. From time to time, I hear these saying, "Hey, it's the people in white coats and they're mixing something in the lab." As long as we want to have the approach, it's some people in white coats mixing something, that will increase the gap. And the words that you're using and that I believe I'm using is actually closing that gap and empowering people to understand that biology is in our hands. That is really important to know. Biology is in our hands, and biology is something that we should and we will use for our good, because this is a powerful tool. This is something that will be written in the history of humankind, and something that helped us step up. And coupled with engineering and technology and that mindset, it will help us to utilize it in a proper way.
It's really interesting when you started talking about producing honey without the bees, right? But I'm also wondering, what happens then to the byproducts that we get from honey, like beeswax and mead, and I think there's royal jelly and all of that other stuff. So does MeliBio plan to get into that space as well, or?
There are 220 types of honey, main types of honey. So we as a startup definitely believe in focus. Focus in early stage makes or breaks the startup. So we are definitely looking into honey at this moment, and we are looking into how can we be really efficient there, and how can we meet our goal to launch our product end of next year. So we know the other products are there. I think we've seen synthetic beeswax being produced. Some of the other products that are coming from bees that are fantastic, we haven't seen. We don't know what will happen with them. I mean, definitely there will be solutions. We will see how we will engage with other products, but we are definitely focused on honey because it's a very complex product. It will take time to perfect it. It will take a lot of resources to get there, but with the right support and with people that believe that this is an important topic as we do, I think we will get there. I'm really aware. I read about all these other products. I read about the bee venom and what's about the study that there's a possible positive effect in using bee venom and breast cancer. I really think that bees are unbelievable creatures. I wouldn't be surprised that we keep discovering more and more new things about the benefits of their product. We as a company are definitely following that space, but we are not parallelly working on different products because that's not impossible in this stage of ours.
So just to be clear, so the product you're producing is in every sense without the bee. So it's I'm assuming vegan. There's no animal involved in the process or animal products involved in the process, because I know you're vegan, as are the two of us. So essentially, this is no animal products. This is just like the real honey, right? I mean, it's got all the potential medicinal properties, the micronutrients, right? This is almost indistinguishable from honey produced by a bee and honey produced by MeliBio. Am I correct?
You are correct. You just used one word that we would love to eliminate down the road with our R&D process, the word almost. So our goal is not to have that word almost, because we want to make it as bee make it, and down the road we are looking into also making it even better. And people ask me, what means even better? Honey is awesome. Honey is awesome. And some of the micronutrients that are there are super powerful. We are also thinking about how can we look into honey and in some terms make it even better. So that's also our goal.
So enhancing or increasing the potency or the availability of a particular nutrient as well. Sorry, Katya.
No, that's fine. I love it. So I remember just going back, you said people say that honey is a premium product, but MeliBio really wants to make sure you give honey to all of the 10 billion people that are going to be in the planet. Does that mean it's going to be at a different price point in terms of, like, it will be priced for a common man's wallet?
Not only that it will be priced for common man's wallet, but it will be significantly lower than bee-made honey, and it will be so widely accessible that I think people wouldn't be needing to look into more affordable solutions, because we'll deliver the highest quality at the price that will be competitive. We believe that people will really not be needing to look into other sweeteners to use them for delightful moments of pure indulgence of the great taste that comes with amazing functional benefits, and with the peace of mind and soul that you are consuming product that is vegan and that doesn't include animals or animal work.
So going back to Manuka a little bit. So can you actually make a Manuka honey? Because is one of the inputs into your process, and if it's commercial in confidence, don't tell me. is actually the flowers that and then other things that the bees get their nectar from, and so you could essentially create Manuka by having, I guess, the Manuka, the plant or tree there, or is that something you can do, or is this something else?
We are looking into Manuka honey, and Manuka honey is really something that is really special. A lot of people are getting familiar with Manuka, and Manuka is a tea plant that grows in mainly limited parts of New Zealand and Australia. A lot of these parts are um, under control of indigenous communities, Maori communities living there. So the production is very limited. Manuka has several aspects because it's really awesome. We are looking at those different aspects, and I definitely see MeliBio having our solution down the road in terms of making our product to be the powerful as Manuka honey. Manuka honey is Manuka honey has these amazing benefits. I also argue that buckwheat honey is great, and other types of honey. There's a little bit of also promotion done with Manuka, which was done fantastically by the government of New Zealand and some of the companies there. But I would say that to your question, I definitely believe that everything is possible to be built, because understanding the magnitude of the infrastructure we have today, I don't see that something is impossible. 6 or 7 years ago, if you would told someone, hey, we would produce dairy milk without cow, 7 years from now, they would say that you're crazy. And now look at perfect day. So it's everything is possible. It's just, in my opinion, that you need a great alignment of people, resources, and time, with a clear communication, with a clearly communicated message. If all of these things are aligned, I believe everything is possible. The industry that we are currently in is not a usual industry. I can split my investor calls between people that are investors and generalists and understand several industries and the challenges of each and every one of them. And on the other side, the investors that are really supporting this space. So for the people that are not understanding this space, I strongly encourage you to understand that this is not an industry like any from before in terms of the phase of development and in terms of knowing things. In this space of ours, it's really common that a lot of things ahead of you in terms of scaling, you're yet to discover. So I'm really happy that with this mindset, we are actually staying open to see how things can play down the road. It's not you build a house so you understand that you need a plot, you need a foundation to dig it, to fill it with concrete, you need to add bricks. Everything is not clear in that way, in that sense. But with more and more players joining the space and giving their view and perspective on the industries, I think we are building a common knowledge that helps building that infrastructure. And when the resources in terms of money and time come, I think that it's just matter of a couple of years until we get to the fullest level of achievement and realizing that synthetic biology is changing our daily lives and making it better.
Sorry, I had a really, I just have an observation, because I mean, we featured a lot of companies, obviously, Lavi, on the show. And one of the sort of the hurdles that companies such as, cell-based companies and vegan companies face is that it's like a lifestyle choice. Most people can't afford to have it. What's different about what you're proposing is everyone can afford to have it.
I come from I have an interesting family background and story, and
Please.
when I was a kid, I remember that we weren't able to afford products, a lot of products that we wanted to have. And I remember that going into a supermarket with our parents when we were really young, we realized that we cannot just be the kids that take the product out of the shelf and put it in the basket and because our parents wouldn't be able to afford it. And I remember that time it is really strongly built in within myself. So what really moves me is that the work that Aaron and I are doing, supported by the team, is actually the work that will be able to empower everyone. We believe that everyone should eat nutritious food. We believe that everyone should consume tasty food that's beyond the taste, that comes with functionalities. So understanding that, yes, you can be a premium brand or premium company and build around the lifestyle. I believe that our lifestyle is that we don't want to see any other kid that is not able to have access to food that is tasty and nutrition, because if we succeed and there are still people that are hungry, that success was nothing, in my opinion.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that sort of personal aspect and the motivation behind that. I mean, that's, it explains a lot of the passion that I think both Karthik and I are feeling on this conversation today. I mean, it's incredible. So actually what I'm seeing, and I don't know whether the investors are saying this, and I hope they are, we usually have a few investors watch our podcast on a regular basis, is that you're not just, this is not only about making honey without bees. This is actually potentially, you're going after the sweetener market, right? I mean, this could be, you could change the entire sort of industry of everything from stevia to sugarcane to, whatever else out there, right? Fructose, all of that stuff, corn syrup, all of that could really be a potential, potentially disrupted, if not from this sort of particular honey that you're making, but it could also be the fact that once you've cracked honey, which is like the premium and the hardest sweetener to produce with all of its functional nutrition, you could make any kind of sweetener, I assume, through the same process, by just moving various synthetic bioprogram parameters. I'm not, maybe I'm talking too much there, but yeah, I mean, I see this as a huge game changer, just not about honey anymore. This could be about something way bigger than that. I'm sure you're thinking along the same lines.
Lavindra, thank you for bringing that up. We, as a company, we see this better future coming for bees and for humans. And we see it, and as we imagine it today, we are building it. So we know where we want to get. We know the world that we want to build. In that time span of 10 or 15 or 20 years, things change. Companies pivot. Companies try new products. We really stay open-minded, but we stay humble and focused what we are doing in the next 5 years, and we know what we are doing. So definitely, what wakes us up is the positive impact that we are making on everyone. With the great people, we will make great things, because founding team is key and is crucial, but it is not enough. Amazing teams, amazing companies have thousands of or dozens of thousands of people working on making things better. And we believe that from day one, MeliBio is built to be that company that will attract positive people, kind people, people that understand that they will one day leave this world. And at that moment, it wouldn't be that important if they made 3x or 300x, but they would know that what they did is that they helped this world to be a better place for themselves while they're here and for the future generation that they're leaving behind.
Perfect place to end, Darko. If I don't want to even add to that, because I think that's a beautiful sort of cherry on the top for what this discussion has been. Karthika, do you agree?
Absolutely, like spot on.
So we're going to leave it there so that you get the last word in on that one, because that was a beautiful way to stop today's conversation. Thank you again, Darko, for taking the time and sharing your vision, your passion. It's just been a humbling experience to listen to you. Completely inspirational, and we wish you the very best of luck in your race. We'll hopefully spread the word as much as we can on our channels, but all the very best. Please keep in touch with us. Love to have you back when you can maybe share a little bit more about the process in some detail. And hopefully one day we will taste your honey.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
Thank you.
again.
Darko, thank you so much.
Thanks, Darko.